So, let me make sure we're good. Okay. So sorry about the technical difficulties. We haven't had that in a meeting before. I don't know if my connection is bad, but happy St. Patrick's Day. I was going to toast you all with my green beer in my Heritage Center glass. If you can. So
I'm wearing green. I'm all in green.
Oh, I see Virginia. Virginia's got her green. So we'll start with the toast to you all. And if anyone knows how to properly pronounce the Irish toast, cheers, the sláinte. I say sláinte to you all. I watched a whole video on how to pronounce Irish words properly, and I feel like I did not learn anything really. It was more difficult than I realized, but I feel like now I might be able to look at a word and make it out. So if there's any of you here that know how to read Irish words properly, that's wonderful. Because it's a phonetic language, but their phonetics are a bit different than ours. So I'm gonna today I wanted to share with you some things from our archives and from our local history. So I will switch to slideshow so you can see. So this one, feel free to ask questions, share your experiences, but I'll we've got a slide here of a few finds from the archives that we'll get to that you'll be able to see closer. This is sadly recorded. Hopefully I can edit out some of the issues at the beginning. But yeah, this will be recorded for anyone to come back to later, and it'll be on our Facebook and YouTube. You guys, I might end up muting everybody at one point, but feel free to unmute yourself. We'll see how background noise goes, but this is kind of laid back if you guys want to jump in or share anything. But I wanted to start out with why we celebrate today, who St. Patrick was. He was the patron saint of Ireland, despite the fact that he was actually from Britain. But the story was that he
It disappeared. Sounds gone.
Natalie, we lost you. Yeah.
Yourself off.
I think she's working on getting back on here. Okay.
That's dick.
Casey, I saw your video of changing the time on the clock. That was interesting.
Glad you like that. Hopefully someday we can do a video with a little more thought behind it. I just did that at the last minute, but
well, it doesn't look or sound last minute. It sounds like you really know what you're doing.
Well, next time we might throw in a little history of the clock. So
okay.
Thought that might have been it, but we also don't want to test people's attention spans on the internet. So
they probably.
Hey guys, I'm here. Hope you guys are chatting amongst yourselves. I'm on my husband's phone now. I think the problem is we have too many people on Wi-Fi in our house. My daughter is also on a Zoom call tonight for Girl Scouts. So we are trying to figure that out. But I think I'm waiting for my other one to connect. So, hello.
You're frozen.
oh, there she is. And she's frozen. Yeah.
You guys hear me
You're breaking up.
on this one?
You're breaking up
Hear
pretty
me?
badly.
No. Well, I don't know how to handle this. We haven't had a problem with my internet this whole time
Well, I turned the Wi-Fi off.
of doing programs
Try turning the Wi-Fi back on.
until today.
Do you want to email
You sound
someone
better right now.
your PowerPoint and we can share our screen and you can just talk?
Yeah, we could. Let me try that. I've got it in my let me do that real quick. Really sorry, guys. We've never, so normally we have somebody else with the slides, but we didn't do that today. So that's my sister, part of my Irish family that I was going to talk about a little bit today. So while we're waiting, how about you guys share how you're celebrating today? Did you guys have corned beef and cabbage, or celebrate with some green beer, do a jig? Anybody out there?
We're doing a St. Patrick's Day craft. Making time.
Is it
I
green?
saw crayons somewhere.
I fixed myself a dinner of Irish colcannon and fish and carrots, and I made some scones.
Jones.
And well, I lived in England for 4 years, and England and Ireland say scones.
So can you tell us about, you said you made colcannon?
Yeah,
How do you pronounce that properly?
I don't know.
How about anybody else? Virginia, what are you drinking there? Your green concoction. Is that your lemonade?
It's the lemonade, Lynchburg lemonade,
Oh,
and it is delicious.
what is Lynchburg lemonade?
Mhm.
What is it?
Of course, you start with Jack Daniels.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's hard
okay.
lemonade of some kind.
Yeah.
Okay.
Alrighty then.
It's, triple sec and sweet and sour mix, and put those 3 ingredients together, and then 7-Up, some ice cubes, and yum yum.
Sounds lovely.
Does sound delicious.
Okay, I'm having trouble connecting to the internet, so. So yeah, I had corned beef in the crock pot all day while I was at work.
Mm.
And I came home and I did cabbage in the Instant Pot and mashed that up with a whole bunch of butter and garlic and salt and pepper. And that's what we had, along with some roasted potatoes.
Oh, sounds good.
So
Oh.
that's
All those Irish recipes call for a lot of butter. And it has to be
Yeah.
Irish butter from grass-fed cows.
I just tossed in a whole stick. I didn't have a recipe.
That's
figured
probably for the right
that
amount.
sounded good. My sister that is offered to share her screen. The problem is our internet has gone down completely at our house. I'm on through LG here.
Natalie, is the
So I can't-
presentation anywhere on the server here?
It is. I did do some edits to it though, so
Text
it's
me
not
your email
gonna be-
login.
oh, okay.
Text me your password. We can do
Thank
this.
you. I'll just do that.
Don't share it with everybody. Just text me.
You're my sister. That's very safe. I'm gonna, guys, we're gonna get her over here. Although, what's your last name now? That's your married last name is not very Irish. What is it?
I think they posted on their Facebook.
My last name, German,
Sexton is not Irish.
maybe German.
German. So I say my last name now also sounds very, very German, Fritz. But I tell people when they ask if I'm related to any of the Fritzes in Springfield that we're not from around here, and that's not my name. I married into it. So, okay. It says that it didn't even the email didn't even go through. Let me turn off my message to you.
Natalie,
Bob is making
Yes.
Irish soda bread.
You made Irish soda bread?
That's what he's making. That's why he
Oh, you're
wasn't.
making it right now.
Yeah, we're at Arby's having a corned beef sandwich.
Ah, there you go. I got a Reuben from Un Mundo. So
Oh, I should have gotten one of those.
they have very good Reubens.
you keep muting it, so I just keep my mouth shut.
I'm not muting it. We're on. We're talking.
Okay.
You want to keep talking?
If you come in the office tomorrow, Natalie, you can have some.
You're gonna bring some Irish soda bread?
Irish
Did
soda.
you hear that, people? You stop in tomorrow.
I see Hatfield licking his chops already.
All right. I think my sister should be able to bring up her slides in a minute. All right, I think that worked. Anybody else out there? I also have these cookies that are made with their Lucky Charms, apparently. My daughter made them last night, and they didn't. She put too many on a pan, so they didn't quite cook all the way through. But they're nice and gooey. So that's the extent of our St. Patrick's Day celebrating at our house. Let me see if there's trying to figure out any way I can get around this internet on my side. Not working. We haven't had our internet down for this long before, so of course it knows that we've got a program today. So I can start a little bit about the areas we were going to talk about. Is anybody here on the call from the Irish Hill neighborhood? I was going to talk about that. Irish Hill was bounded by limestone, and on the west side, and East Street on the east side, and on the south it was Selma, which was called Clifton back when people would have been first settling there. And then on the north it's bounded by High Street. So St. Joseph Church is right in the middle there. And that was where a lot of the Irish immigrants settled to work at the factories along East Street. So that's how it got its name. I wasn't sure if anybody on this call lived in any of those neighborhoods. I know that there was a good article a while back by Tom Stafford where he talked to a bunch of people that grew up in Irish Hill and got great stories from them. We've got that in our archives. Trying real hard to get this to connect.
I'm not sure where my ancestors grew up in Springfield, but there were 2 Catholic parishes, and there was always competition between the Catholic parishes in Springfield, and they were a little snide with one another. They called St. Joseph's, they called St. Raphael's the lace curtain Irish, okay? They were up on the hill, and St. Joseph's was below. I hope we've gotten over that, but
Well, I had wondered about that myself when I saw the bounding parishes, or and I said, well, that was so close to St. Ray's. I was surprised that St. Raphael's parish didn't serve Irish Hill, but I see that apparently it was okay. Melanie, that should have gone through now. I got internet just long enough for that to go through. I'm gonna try connecting again. Oh, it's letting me connect again. Hey. Let me mute on this one. Well, I might just keep your phone just in case. I'm gonna keep my husband's phone. He could just stay in here and do the program with me. I'm gonna try and share my slides again, but my sister hopefully will have them as backup in case we go off.
And I've found it too, Natalie. I found your old version of the
Okay,
share.
I rearranged the slides about 5 minutes before we started, so they won't be in the same order, but I can still do the presentation either way. But we'll go back to St. Patrick. Let me go back to this slide. So we figured it out. Thank you guys for bearing with us. But a little bit about St. Patrick that I don't know if any of you caught. He was born in Britain, but at age 16, he was taken prisoner by a group of Irish raiders who had attacked his family's estate. And he spent 6 years in captivity in Ireland, where he worked as a shepherd. And he turned to religion for solace. After 6 years, he managed to escape, and it was said that he walked over 200 miles from County Mayo to the Irish coast and was able to escape to Britain. But once he got there, an angel in a dream told him to return to Ireland as a missionary. And I know that one of the stories a lot of people hear is that St. Patrick converted Ireland to Christianity. There were actually already Christians there, so that's not quite true, but he did go back to minister to the Christians that were there and to further convert. Another legend that is very prominent for St. Patrick is that he drove the snakes out of Ireland. You can see in this picture here, he got snakes down at the end of his staff, but the truth is there probably were never snakes in Ireland. It's too cold, and it's on an island, and they just never made their way there. So that is why there's no snakes in Ireland, but it's a nice story. And then another story is that the Irish green is very much associated with St. Patrick, which is not true. This color here shown in the picture is known as St. Patrick blue, is really more the color that was associated with him. The shamrock green was something that came into play later, especially as Irish immigrants were settling in the U.S. They would wear a shamrock in their lapel to show their Irish pride, and then that started to translate to more wearing of the green to represent. So I have my one day a year where I can wear my Happy St. Patrick's Day shirt. I've got other green shirts, but this one specifically is very much limited. And if any of you here are Irish, you know where your family are from. My family comes from County Galway and County Kerry, which I'm not entirely sure where that is on the map. But if you know where you're from, shout it out. We'll find your area on the map. Got Cork. I think I've also got family from Cork.
The Corgis are from Cork, and the Heffernans are from Galway, which is on the west coast.
Yeah, okay, yeah, the Heffernans were from Galway. We'll get to them later. And we've got back to the shamrock. Its importance to Ireland is that St. Patrick used it to explain the Holy Trinity to the Irish people: the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. I'm not sure where the lucky 4-leaf clover comes into that with the extra clover. But that here, some other Irish traditions that are specific to America. And this is, I think this is a picture. I tried to pull one off the internet from the other day when they dyed the Chicago River green again. I know that there was talk that they weren't going to do that this year and that they were toning down regular celebrations in Chicago, but they did end up dyeing the river green, which they had skipped last year with COVID. But they've been doing that in Chicago since 1962. I don't know if any of you have ever been there when it's dyed green. It looks beautiful. I think it only lasts for a short period of time. But to be honest with you, the thought of going there with throngs of people does not appeal to me. That's not my kind of celebration. It seems like it would be a bit too crowded. Would be a lot of fun for some. Other Irish traditions that were more specific to America is the tradition of Irish parades. A lot of them, again, were canceled last year and this year, but they're very big in Boston, New York, and Chicago. And those kind of started around the early Irish aid societies that were located in those cities, and they began to do parades. But the truth is, in Ireland, it was tradition celebrating St. Patrick's Day, which was on March 17th, because that was supposed to be the date of St. Patrick's death in 461 AD. It was generally a very solemn celebration, a church holiday spent in prayer at church or at home. And it's something that as immigrants came to America, they used it more as a way to show their pride in their heritage. And then eventually those traditions began to carry over more to Ireland. In 1970 is when they finally, allowed bars to be open on St. Patrick's Day and sort of embraced the Irish traditions that were very prominent in America. But we do know that it was celebrated since the 9th or 10th century, just in general, and that the record of the very first parade in America was in St. Augustine in Florida in 1601. So that goes way, way back.
Wow.
And we know that there was 2 major waves of Irish immigration. The first would have been in the 1840s after the Irish potato famine hit. And that was when close to 1 million Irish immigrants came to America to escape starvation. And the second, and that would have been not a great time for them to come to Clark County in particular, because there was a cholera epidemic the following year in 1849, and more than 50 Irish immigrants that had come to work on the railroad died. And as far as local, here other Irish traditions, which we already talked about. This was my dinner last year, followed by breakfast the next day, because that's the best thing about making corned beef is the corned beef hash the next day. And then this is Mundo's Reuben, which is delicious. This just before here. This is what we had for dinner tonight. And now I'll get back into the local connections. We talked a little bit about Irish Hill and its bounding area between Limestone, East Street, High Street, and Selma on the south. So I don't believe it's been designated officially a historic area, but I know that they tried to do that in the 80s. That might be something that can be picked up again to designate that area. But we know that according to the 1860 census, there was more than 40% of the area was Irish. 1860 and 1870 census, more than 40% of the area was Irish at that time. And I mentioned St. Joseph's Church was opened in 1883 on Kenton. So that served that neighborhood. And Carol talked a little bit about the split between the 2 Catholic churches that to me seemed very close together, but I'm sure it must have been worlds apart at that time. But the second wave of immigration after the 1840s was in the 1870s or 1860s, 70s, and 80s in our area. We do know that some came to work on the railroad, initially on the national road, and then they were pulled off to work on the railroad because the railroad paid better. That came in by the 1840s. But we know that the ones that settled in Irish Hill were there to work in the factories like the East Street shops, which is shown here. That was the largest factory all under one roof, aside from the Krupp Armory in Germany. And there was a number of different companies in there after William Whiteley's companies won out in the late 1880s. But we know that's why they settled in this area. A couple more local pictures. This is the one of those Irish Aid Societies that I mentioned, the Ancient Order of the Hibernians. They were founded in 1836 to promote the welfare of Irish Catholics following an influx of immigrants fleeing the potato famine. The Springfield division wasn't founded until 1876. This is an undated picture that we have from the archives showing the group here. But we know that some of the original officers were William O'Brien, Thomas Dillon, James and John Kinane associated with Kinane and Wren Department Store, and J.F. Sheehan. And they met in Burns Hall that was located at Main and Limestone. And then there was a second group that was formed just a few years later because there was enough of an Irish population to support that. And they both set out to promote friendship, unity, and true Christian charity among members by raising money for the maintaining the aged, sick, blind, and infirm. And if anyone knows how to read Irish words, this is, I looked up how to pronounce this. Ciad Mil Falta means 100,000 welcomes. So this was 100,000 welcomes to the Ancient Order of the Hibernians, and Aaron Go Bra means Ireland forever. And that was a phrase that was first used during the Irish Rebellion in 1798. But you see it on lots of things. I know I went to Ireland while I was studying abroad in college, and we went to Dublin, and I said, I think I bought everything that had a shamrock on it and brought it home with me, pretty much. If you want to show your Irish Hill pride, or you need a green shirt, Champion City Guide and Supply has some Irish Hill shirts, and they were running a sale, and I think the sale's running online through today. This came up on my Instagram, so I thought I'd share this with you guys, and I've seen people around town with their Irish Hill shirts. Some other fun facts about Ireland that I just wanted to share, because I do love Star Wars. The newer Star Wars sequels, were the last one was filmed, The Force Awakens was filmed in Ireland, atop of Skellig Michael, which is a beautiful looking location. And since I work in the library and archives, I wanted to focus some of this on how you can do your own family history and delve a little more and do research on various settlements and things in Clark County. This is the research library, and I'm always happy to help. I know Flossie's on this call and Bob, and they can help people do family research, and they're with the Genealogical Society. But so this is the third floor research library, and this is behind the scenes where you can see stuff in our archives. We've got a lot of family collections, newspapers where Flossie herself has handwritten lots of deaths and marriages and information right out of the newspapers because they weren't included in indexes. So she's working on one right now to handwrite obituaries. So those are great resources for people that are available. And I know that I often get write-in requests or call-in requests of people doing family research. And I know from experience that sometimes researching those Irish families can be very difficult, because just like a lot of the families, you'll see a lot of the names repeated. And names changed when people come over and things like that. So that does make finding people a little bit more difficult sometimes, but we're always happy to help. Couple of finds directly from our archives. This is a postcard that was sent to a Mr. Neer in 1912, and it was actually sent in December, so I don't think they weren't holding on to it for a St. Patrick's Day postcard, but we thought this was a cute one in our collection. And the shamrocks here, the 4-leaf clovers listed is part of a good luck postcard. This pretty one that we've got. And then I believe this one today we made into a puzzle on our Facebook page. This was just one that was in our greeting cards collection that were sent to local people in town. But I found this one last year and it seemed very appropriate. Instead of "kiss me, I'm Irish," wave to me. So that's what we are socially distancing our Irish celebration. But I know that from my name, which I Natalie or Fritz does not. Oh, I need to stop typing it. It's making me jump. Fritz does not sound very Irish, but I always tell people that it's not my name. I borrowed it from my husband, who is now in here with me in the other room. But his name is, it sounds very German, but we're still going back through history to find that it may not be as German as it sounds. But I do have proof that I am in fact Irish. This is the stone family tree that my dad mostly maintains. I think he's still on this call. But both sides of his family come from various parts of Ireland. The Courtneys came from County Kerry, and the Kellys and Heffernans on as his dad's side came from Galway. So we've got, so I don't know if any of you use Ancestry. We use it for the Heritage Center a lot to help people. Family Search is another great resource that's free that you can do your family history on. But it's great to be able to build trees like this, because you see all of these little leaves here are hints that are given by other people that have put their trees in. So it makes the work a lot easier. I mean, you still have to do some of the legwork if you need full proof of things, but it helps give you names to start with and help fill out your tree a little bit better, working off the work of other people. So it's a wonderful resource. I don't know if my dad's still on this call, if he wants to jump in. I bought him a DNA kit a couple of years ago for Christmas, and he laughed at me and said, you know, why would you get me this? And I thought it was something he'd be really into, but he said, well, they don't need to know about me. And I said the other day, I said, well, and it's to tell other people this too, unless you have literal or figural skeletons in your closet, why not do a DNA test to find a little bit more about your ancestry? And I did see, again, it came up on my Instagram that Ancestry is running a sale through today for people to do that. So my husband and I are debating doing ours to find out a little bit more about our specific heritage, so we can tell our kids where they come from, and maybe at some point they can figure that out for themselves and do that. But this is my dad's results, and it told us a lot of what we knew. We knew that he was Irish, more than 50% Irish, and we knew that they come from Galway, at least part of the family. But one of the things that comes up is kind of a surprise was the high percentage of Scotland that came up, 37%. And he said that percentage, he's seen it grow as more people do DNA tests and they find people that are connected to him. But we find that kind of interesting because if you go back to the tree, these lines here are supposed to be from Hungary, which does not seem to be reflecting in the tree. So the theory that my dad's grandfather was adopted seems to bear out with the DNA. So that's something, unfortunately, we can't go back and test the DNA to definitively figure that out. But it's interesting how it shows that those family theories that we had may be true. So there must be somebody lower, someone closer in our tree that comes from Scotland. So those are some interesting things you can find if you do that. And I know that the Genealogical Society has had entire talks just about people that, doing this and what they've found. So I find it interesting. One thing I always want to let people know is if they contact us looking for naturalization records and you're hoping to find what town or village in Germany or Italy or Ireland that you came from to show up on your naturalization record, unfortunately, that's usually not the case. It'll just say native of Ireland, native of Germany, or Hesse Darmstadt is the closest I've seen getting something for if people are of German descent. But this was a great uncle of mine that was in Summit County, which is where my family is from initially. So I know a lot of people, they'll come to us to go through the naturalization records to try and get that last step back overseas, and that we can't always help them with that. But I know that I talked about how we use Ancestry to help people with research. We don't have the international copy of Ancestry, so we can't do any overseas research, but that's another extra add-on that they have. But sometimes it lets us get a little taste of a record that might exist to see if we want to get back that far. So I don't know if anyone else has done Ancestry that does the international one to see if that's worth it, or if helps you get back a lot further. But we don't use it for at the Heritage Center because we can usually do pretty good with what we can find on the regular subscription. And I just wanted to share a few of my family photos. These are the Kellys in the Heffernans from Galway. And this was my grandfather's grandparents. And this is me in Galway in college. These are the cliffs of Galway. And here's a 20-year-old me there. And I know I probably don't look entirely too different, but that's me 20 years ago almost. And it was cool to know that I was in where my family had been from. And here's the other side of the family. Jesse Hefferson married Raymond Stone, who may be our missing link, figure out where he came from. And then this is my grandpa Paul, born in 1920. He would have been 100 last year. And this is my grandma's side, the Courtneys, who came from Cary. My great grandpa Joe, who died in 94 at 94, and his wife Laura, and my grandma Jane, who went by, she was Colette, but she went by Jane. And this is the Courtney Cassidy family. So my great grandparents. And our connection in Northeast Ohio in Summit County was that my great grandpa Joe, I believe, gave the land for the first tract of land that became the park system there in Summit County, at the Portage area. And there's a rock down there with a Native American on it that is down in a little triangle area, which was the neighborhood that I grew up in. And we knew that the family farm house still stood in that neighborhood where I grew up in Akron, down in the valley. So that was a neat piece of history that we had close to us. And these are my grandparents. They married in May 1946. I love this picture of them. And then this was, my grandma passed away in 2012 and my grandpa in 2013. And this ended up being the last time I saw them in February of that year. And this ended up being the last picture that we had of both of them together. So I love that picture. And this is my daughter back in 2012. And this is my grandma, who today is the anniversary. She died on St. Patrick's Day in 2012. So we always said she was a fine Irish lass, and she was celebrating in heaven. So we're thinking about her today. And this is their Irish family, minus my dad. He was born in 60, so this is my Aunt Janet. They're about 6 years apart. So this is, I think, mid-50s. And these are my fine Irish children, Elliot and Paige. This is them 8 years ago now. And this is them now. They're 8 and 11. With their cookies that they got from their grandma that we haven't seen in a while, due to COVID. So she sent them their St. Patrick's Day gift. And this is a another Irish greeting we have from our archives. And an Irish blessing for you all. We have this on a little trivet that we keep. That was, I think, something that came through my family that I keep in my kitchen. So I wish you all a good St. Patrick's Day, and hopefully we will see you all again in person someday. It's nice to see you this way, but we do like to see each other in person. And I want to thank you all for joining us and bearing with me with our, here comes my dad back in the room. He was gone for a while. I'll stop sharing. I'll see if I think he missed all of that. So while I've stopped sharing my screen, if you guys want to share any of your family story, whether you're Irish or not. I mean, on St. Patrick's Day, I think everybody's considered Irish. Dad, can you hear me? Did you hear any of that, or were you off for that call? Okay. Well, thank you for sharing our family history. And my dad's the keeper of our family history. And I see Bill's on the call. That reminded me, I have another story that Bill had shared with me. Bill, would you like to unmute and share your story that you had of the local Irish? Can you hear me? Can you hear me all right? There you go. Do you want to share the story?
You go ahead.
From Dr. Kinnison?
You go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go ahead? Okay.
Yes, please.
Well, Bill had passed along a story that Dr. Kinnison had found when he was doing research for one of his local history books. That was a story that didn't make it into the book, but it had to do with in the early years of Springfield settlement, that when someone would pass away, they would follow behind the hearse to the cemetery, and there was kind of some wildness, and they ended up, I don't know if they passed a law or if they just made it so that the Irish families had to have their funeral ceremonies in the evening, so that they were not out during the day to be bothering people. That was something that Dr. Kinnison had run across in some of his research. So we thought that was an interesting story. And another one that I had run across that we actually have in our docent manual, if Carol's still on the call. Yeah, Carol, this is something that I realized was in our docent manual about the origins of the paddy wagon, that it may be,
I remember that.
it may have local origins, which I did a little more research. I'm not sure if we have anything to back that up, because but the story of the paddy wagon was that it was coined. The story is that it was coined it was coined due to the city's efforts to keep drunken factory workers, how they transported them to the local police station. They would have a wheelbarrow outside the different taverns, and people would say, "Quick, bring the paddy wagon." And it wasn't until I was reading that in our docent manual that I realized that the paddy wagon that I was familiar with as the truck that, comes to pick the large police vehicle that picks people up was a bit of a slur. And that had never dawned on me that that's what that was. And I did a little more research to look into that.
It was called Patty, so it was,
yeah.
It was
So and it never dawned on me. I thought it was a patrol wagon, and they were just shortening that. I did not realize that was the connotation there. But I looked that up, and that seems to go back to the 1840s, that it really was related to a wheelbarrow. The story here is that eventually they had a 2-horse patrol wagon that was used for that purpose, that was given to Asa Bushnell. So that would have been around 1900. But I would need to find the more of the source for that. I'm not sure where that information came from, but I know that it's one of our little extras that we include in our docent manual for docents to throw in extra stories if they like.
Material in that manual.
So we've got a lot of stuff in the docent manual.
The Irish were not only factory workers, there were a lot of Irish railroad workers laying the track, working on the trains as conductors and brakemen. And my grandfather's generation, he and all his brothers were railroad workers, and they had a union that was almost all Irish.
I know that we have a book in the archives that I haven't looked too much into, but it's from 1900, and it talks a little bit about the ethnic makeup of Springfield right around 1900, 1904. It was written by, I think last name was Todd. And that's a resource that we've pulled out before to look at the makeup of the community. But I know that that's an interesting resource that we have.
My name's Ed Griffin, and that's my wife, Mary. And I got a little family history on East Street. My great-grandparents and my grandparents, my grandfather had a gas station on the corner of East Street and Summer Street. And my great-grandmother and grandfather had a carryout on the opposite corner of East Street and Summer Street. And I remember my grandfather telling me, they were the Hill Irish. And I'm thinking they had that gas station probably, he had the gas station, my grandfather had the gas station, I'm thinking in the 40s and 50s. It was the gas pumps. I think I got some pictures somewhere that they had to actually pump, to get the gasoline to come out. And,
what was their family, the last name?
Griffin.
It was Griffin?
Yeah, Ed. My great grandparents was Ed and Mary Griffin. My grandfather was Edward, and my grandma was Wilma Griffin. And then when Mary and I got married, they were just, then my dad was Edward Joseph Griffin. And I'm Edward Joseph Jr., and then I named my son Edward Joseph III. So when Mary and I got engaged and and my grandparents found out we were going to be married, they were just astonished that there was another Edward and Mary Griffin in the family. So.
Well, I said that's what makes some of the family research a little bit hard to do, because you see a lot of repeating names throughout the generation. It makes it hard to split them out sometimes.
Yeah.
So I have a story. It's not Irish, but through my DNA and ancestry, I've met several third and fourth cousins on both sides of my mom and dad's family. I think that's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. Well, my husband has a good story in his family. His cousin found a half brother doing a DNA test that they had him and his sister had both done a DNA test, and they found that their half brother found them. And it was a family member that no one had known about. And unfortunately, my husband's uncle had already passed away by the time he had found them. But when they met him, he was the spitting image, and it was amazing to see. So it's so amazing, DNA across families. So I got both my parents on this call and my sister. If you put us all next to each other, you can see they were related, even though my mom's side is the Italian side, and the Italian and English mostly. If my grandma was on here, she would be correcting me too. I didn't talk about my mom's side of the family. There's not really any Irish on that side, but I think there's some Scottish going further back. I looked through the tree the other day and I saw some of that. So I would be really curious to see what our DNA would show. Mary, did you have something? Mary Conway?
Just a couple of comments about doing Irish genealogy, because it's hard. I have two great-grandfathers born in Ireland. My great-great-great-grandmother came as a famine immigrant to Springfield in 1851. Her sister was living here. I don't know how her sister ended up here, but some of them worked on the railroad. She remarried, and I came tonight because in her obituary in the paper, it said that she was living on Clifton Avenue when she died in 1895. And her children were, not her children, because it wasn't, St. Joe's wasn't, she was buried from St. Joe's. But the trick that I have found, one of the tricks that I have found with Ancestry is if you've got a clue where your ancestor might be from in Ireland, and I did with my Coggins. I started doing genealogy so long ago. I had older family members alive. My great aunt was alive, and she knew where her grandmother had been born. So that was just luck. And so Ancestry says you have to buy, they say, oh, this might be a hint. This could be the record for your ancestor. But you have to buy the international package for a year to do it. In Ireland, those records are in the National Library. And if you know what you're looking for, and Ancestry tells you what that is, you can go to the National Library and look for the records for free. And I found my great-great-great-grandfather my great-great-grandfather's baptismal record in Ireland. And
that's a great tip. I didn't know. So that was because they do give you the record that you could see if you paid for the international.
Right.
So
but if you go to the National Archives or the National Library in Ireland, it's free. But you have to, of course, know what to look for. The second tip of doing genealogy, my Connollys came in 1870. And many Irish families came scattered. They did not come together. The first group of Connollys came in the 1860s to New York City, and then to Champaign County. My Connollys lived in Champaign County, but before they came to the United States, they went to the area around Liverpool, England, because that's where some of the ships were. And while they were there, my great-great aunt had twins, and they were baptized in Haslington, Lancashire, England. And I found that record because somebody knew the story. So keep asking folks for stories. But the hint about finding Irish records for free, I think, is a good one.
That's a really good one. Yeah. And I know another great thing, just all those hints that they have on the trees. There are a lot of records that people will, I found handwritten things and just family histories and oral histories and things like that in there too, that people have connected to their trees. So if you click through different trees that you think are connected to yours, you might find other great records too, that are helpful. So I know my dad shared there was a family oral history of the Kellys that he had, that was done in the 50s that he had found that he shared. So that's great resources to find those things.
That's
And I know that in our archives, we have tons of stuff. We have lots of published family books and notebooks and things like that. So.
That story about the Kelly family includes the actual talking about the trip over from Ireland on the boat.
Oh.
And that my great grandmother Kelly was the steadfast Catholic lady who was saying prayers all the way across on her rosary beads so the ship wouldn't sink.
It worked.
The story was the great aunt that had the twins in England sailed to the United States with a twin on each knee. But they both passed away. The children both died in New York City, in Brooklyn.
Yeah, the early branches of our family were canal workers. So in the 1820s, and the Irish were known for their strong work ethic, and they worked on the Erie Canal. And when they finished the Erie Canal, they came to Ohio and they worked on the Ohio Canal, which opened in 1827. But the Cassidys in our family tree still live in Peninsula, Ohio, which is right on the canal. So
the stories are great.
Third cousins.
Yeah, find as many as you can. They're great.
This is a candlestick that my great-grandfather and his wife brought with them from Ireland. They left for America right after they married. They got married and went from church to the landing. And the only thing they brought with them, except their clothes, was this brass candlestick. And it was the candlestick that was lit every Christmas Eve to light the Christ child.
Oh,
that's sweet.
That's wonderful.
That really is sweet.
Very neat. Well, I hope this has inspired you guys to look more into your family heritage and history. It's a lot of fun. I know we've got Patty on the call. She's been bringing all of her family history to donate and working on the collection, which is the dream, to have people work on the collection that know what they're talking about, that can identify everything and that know the people and have talked to them. She's done everything right to keep that stuff together. So I always tell people, do what you can, talk to who you can when you can, but
I think I leave.
Sorry, go ahead, Dick. Did you say something?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is it okay to say something?
Yeah, go ahead.
Here I go. I'm going to tell you about Kathy. Is 96% Irish. Her maiden name was Flanagan. And about 20 years ago, we went to Ireland and found the home that her great-great-grandfather left. There's a book written about it in Kilshanny,
wow, that's great.
Kilshanny, County Clare, Ireland. Her father, John Roderick Flanagan, was quite the Springfield Irishman. He loved going to the Irish Fellowship annually, which would have been held today if not for the pandemic. I'll tell you just a quick story, true story about John Roderick Flanagan. He was at St. Mary's at the Irish Fellowship, and as usual, he had too much of the suds, and he couldn't find, they gave everybody who came a derby, a green cardboard derby, Irish hat, and he couldn't find his, and he felt that somebody stole it. So he walked from St. Mary's downtown to the police station, which was in the Heritage Center at the time, and reported that somebody stole his Irish hat. Well, the police, they were very gentle at that period of time. They called Mrs. Flanagan on Liberty Street and says, your husband's down here and somebody stole his Irish hat. Would you like to come down and pick him up? Mrs. Flanagan says, I will tomorrow morning, keep him in there overnight. And he slept in a cell till the next morning.
He was truly an Irishman.
He was a real
He
Irish.
loved his beer.
Okay.
Well, thank you for that story.
This is a picture.
Does anybody have anything else that they want to share? Oh, we've got some
Is that
pictures.
him?
No, that's my great grandfather that came from Ireland. He came over after, during the famine. His name was Patrick Michael Flanagan. And he was,
Every third Irishman was named Patrick, I swear.
yeah,
That's why
right,
it's
or
called
Michael. Yeah. So he came over here. He was the only one of 12 children that left Ireland, and he was 21 years old. And he stayed in New York for a while, and then he made his way to Pennsylvania, and then finally to Waverly, Ohio, where he worked on the railroad. And he married Bridget Crow, who was also from Ireland. And so they had 15 children. And and one was my dad, Daniel Patrick. And they needed more money to feed those children. So what he did was he left and went to West Virginia, and he worked in the mines. And he became so great working in the mines that he started to sink the shafts. And that way he traveled all over the country doing that. And he went to Maine and sunk that shaft. It's a famous one in Maine, and also Nova Scotia. And that's where he met my grandmother from Scotland.
Oh.
And then eventually they ended up back in West Virginia. So, but I'm 96% Irish.
And I'm 47%. I'm 53% hillbilly.
Yeah.
So she's higher proof than you? Is that?
Yeah.
For sure.
That's the only thing I'm higher at with Dick.
I think I don't know if we got our if we got our checks today, we might go over and pay for our DNA test, and we will find out what we are. If that was one thing we said, oh, if we get that, we'll find that out.
Yeah, our children gave it to us for Christmas. And like that, we kind of had it, sit around in the box for about 3 months. And then we decided to go ahead and do it. And I was amazed that mine came out 96%.
Yeah, and it's amazing how the more people do it, the more that they can, connect people and make people's findings more varied too. So it's very interesting. Yeah. Well, I don't want to keep. If you guys have anything else you want to share, feel free.
I'm going to throw one quick one in. Part of it's true, very true, and some of it I took liberties. But there was a railroader. I worked on the railroad, incidentally, the first 12 years out of high school. And there was a wire chief downtown at the depot by the name of Ray Kenworthy, a very, very strong Irishman. And the most unusual thing about him was he had 2 thumbs on his right hand. And he was also a distributor over St. Mary's Church. And they loved him over there because especially on Ash Wednesday, he could do 2 foreheads at the same time. And nobody could beat Ray in a pie crust pinching contest. And he had a sister, or he had a cousin from who lived in not Killarney, but Kinsale, Ireland, whose name was Sister Mary Margaret Gallagher. She came to visit one summer, was over here 2 or 3 months, and while connected to St. Mary's, he was making sick calls. And she ran out of gas on West High Street, about 2 blocks from that, where there was an Attaboy gas station. And her car was stuck. She only had 2 blocks to walk but she searched her car and couldn't find a container for gas except a bedpan that she had in the back seat. So she takes the bedpan down to the attaboy station, gets a couple gallons of gas, and very gingerly walks back. And while she's got the gas lid open and pouring the contents of the bedpan into the tank, a couple of rednecks came out of that Sidetracks bar and saw her, and one said, "I'll tell you what, buddy, if she starts the car with that, I'm turning Catholic."
I think you're more than 50% Irish.
I was saying, I
That's
think
it for me.
my dad's writing these down for his next barbershop show that I did this yesterday for Kiwanis, and Judge Carey is the president there, and he had some pretty good jokes that I wish I made better note of to pass along to my dad.
Well, that's great.
All right. All right. Well, I don't want to keep you guys too long tonight. You guys can get to take more of your celebrations. But I thank you
Well,
for
on that
joining
note,
us. And
Thanks.
Bye-bye. And I hope you guys have a great night. Happy St. Patrick's Day.
Same
Happy
to
St.
you.
Patrick's
Bye.
Day.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Bye.